Howdy, Placer County Supervisor Kirk Euler back with you. You know, a few weeks ago in one of the videos I was talking about the breakdown of the supply chain associated with the economy being shut down. And some folks have asked, well, what do you mean by that? What does that really, how does that affect us? What does that really mean? So, got a little example here using my artistic skills, or lack thereof. This is the United States, this is Kansas, there's California over there, it's Canada up there. How's it going, eh? I'm going to explain kind of how the supply chain is a fancy word for getting stuff to you. That's really what the supply chain is. It's all the steps that are required in order to get something from where it's originally produced to the consumer who's going to finish it off. So in our example today, we're going to use moo cows in Kansas. It could be paper in Washington, could be any number of things, but we're going to talk about cows in Kansas. So right now you got cattle farmers in Kansas who are raising their cattle, and they are expecting to be able to sell those cattle into the various supply chains. One is predominantly for consumer end use at home. About 80% of all food consumed in the United States is consumed by us in our homes. About 20% is consumed in restaurants or other institutions, school cafeterias, things along those lines. So you've got the supply chain set up to where 4/5 of the U.S. supply goods go for food, go through to retail outlets like your grocery store, and then 1/5, 20% goes into the restaurants and those things that we get to eat in Placer County. So what we're doing right now is we've got the farmer who's raising his cattle and expecting to sell those cattle into one of those two supply chains. Everything is different about those supply chains. The pricing is different on the beef. The packaging is different and how they are shipped, how they're delivered, time in transit, all kinds of things are all different based on, is it going to a retail establishment to be picked up and eaten at home, or is it going to a restaurant? So when we shut down the restaurants, first thing that happens is 20% of the cattle that he was anticipating selling into the restaurant supply, he can't sell. And it's not like this other supply can just pick up and say, oh, we'll take those 20% over here, because they don't have capacity. There's no packaging capacity. They don't have the labor force. They don't have any of the capacity within this supply chain in order to accommodate this supply chain shutting down. So the farmer is now paying for more cows, more grain, more everything to feed the cattle. He's not getting the revenue that he was counting on for selling to the restaurants. So as we see this start to shut down here, we lose the cattle here, you lose the production of the everything in the slaughterhouses, in the packaging and all the rest that would go to the restaurants, because that's entirely different. Then that all has to be shipped. So fewer trucks on the road, fewer people making money. For those who do get the opportunity to ship, and they were selling into the retail chain here, the retail chain is still working, but here's the problem. You got Tommy the long haul trucker who lives in Kansas, who's used to taking that beautiful corn-fed beef and driving it all the way out here to California so that we can buy it at Rayleigh's. Tommy's got to make money going both ways. Tommy's going to make money taking the cows in the form of a nice ribeye steak out to California, but if California's shut down and California's not producing anything, what's Tommy hauling back? Nothing. So if Tommy's not hauling anything back, what do you think Tommy has to charge in order to get that meat from Kansas out here? Quite a bit more. Why do you think we're seeing the cost of all of our meat going up, our groceries going up, all the rest? And the same thing is true across the supply chain. Why do you think you're in the grocery store having to body check someone over the last package of Charmin when we have literally warehouses full of toilet paper designed for office and industrial uses? They can't repackage that toilet paper so that you don't have to body check your neighbor in order to grab the last package of Charmin. The supply chain is designed for specific forms of consumption. It's breaking down. We've got to get this country back open before it collapses completely. Those are my thoughts for the day. Tune in tomorrow when we have the opportunity to go line by line through why this governor is actually acting in violation of state law.